Survivor specialist Phil and Alexa are back with our episode 11 predictions and power rankings for Survivor season 40. Today we are joined for the first time ever by Nick Maiorano. How'd I do?
Yeah, hey, that was great. That works.
10?
Yeah, 7 out of 10. Even if it was a 1 out of 10, I'd still like you. You're good.
Oh, well, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
We're so excited to have you on here. You're the third person from Survivor Kaoh Rong to join us. Actually, the fourth, but Michelle doesn't remember being here.
Oh, that's very possible. I do remember I watched Julia's, but it was a season that she wasn't into or a season that she wasn't watching.
Yes.
What was that?
Was that Game Changers, Alexa? I think
I think it might have been after that.
Because she did the cast
Island, maybe? No?
She did the cast assessment with us for season 34, and we asked her who's a game changer, who's not a game changer. And then I think she came back for season 35 or 36 and hadn't watched and was just like,
okay. And then what, you've had Scott as well, right?
We had Scott on, yeah.
Yes, I think I watched that as well, yeah.
Yep, and Scott came on, and Michelle made an appearance briefly on one of Julia's podcasts, but I don't think she remembers that she was ever on our podcast, so...
So third time or fourth time is the charm.
Yeah, we're gonna call you the third one, Michelle. Not officially here, but yes, this is your show now, which is very exciting. You know,
wow, I'm excited.
All about you.
Who's the next Kaoh Rong person you're gonna get?
Hopefully, Michelle.
Hopefully.
Oh yeah, right after the season. Yeah. I think you can get her. Yes, I would love to.
Done. Phil, will you be able to handle that, Phil?
No, yeah, I know. That might be too much for you. You're right.
I'm gonna have to be absent that day because, like,
I'll just interview her.
I can't do it. Yeah, I wanna take the credit for hooking up Michelle and Pete too. We brought Pete back into the fold, and now Pete and Michelle are. It's all because of us. Alexa
and there's no exact proof that you did that, but okay. Still,
let him have this.
Yeah. Let me have this one. But yeah, we hope to get Michelle on after the season. I think that'd be great. And
yeah, I'd like to hear her thoughts.
Yeah, me too. And I'd like to hear your thoughts on Michelle on this season and on Winners at Work a Whole.
Well, I think just starting off the bat, I think initially we saw a ton of her. She did have a big part in Ethan's vote out, or
that was
Ethan and Danny.
It was Ethan and Danny. Which one did she she completely ran one of them?
I think it was Ethan.
Yeah.
And then we had the Wendell stuff going on. Again, what was your guys' take on that as now looking back? Was it an actual storyline or was it just to sell the vote?
Phil, I know that we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah.
Now that we know how it went down and how Wendell ends up giving his fire token to Michelle.
Right.
To me, I think that was a storyline that I think there was a bit of a need for a villain.
Right.
And I think especially from hearing Nick talk about it at Tribal Council last week, he said I was really tight with Wendell. I was really tight with Yul. I think that group of four was just really, really close. So I think some tension was just needed. Especially
with the alleged pregame situation with Nick, right, and Michelle and Wendell.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah, go on.
I was just gonna say it doesn't feel like in Michelle's character from what we've seen on her seasons. Maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong here, but it doesn't seem like in her character to purposely go after a feud like this and make it a big deal. Because even on Kaoh Rong, I don't really remember her having like a crazy like center of attention rivalry with somebody. And so this felt more like an editor thing because it was being said in confessionals and we weren't seeing the laughing and joking maybe that was also going on. We were only seeing the parts that were very negative with her and Wendell.
Yeah, I mean, obviously they got along. We just didn't see it. And yeah, so obviously we just got the one-sided effort. But I mean, she was giving those confessionals. She was playing into it, I'm sure. But yeah, I don't think she was doing it on purpose. I don't even think they were doing the whole, hey, let's not get along thing. You're right. It just doesn't make sense. So, but yeah, so then we had that storyline, and then we haven't seen her since, as far as I'm aware. And I feel like she's out of the vote, and that's maybe the Michelle that I saw a bunch of, where she's in the middle, and where people may not be including her, or they're including her last second, and then she jumps on the vote. She jumped on this vote correctly, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Absolutely.
Did she throw up her hands or something like that, or she was confused by it? Yeah. Okay.
In her hand.
What am I doing?
And what do you think? Nick gave her the heads up, or do you think that was just a blind guess?
I think Nick gave her the heads up, but she wasn't even sure if it was actually going to be Tyson who went home. So she was just kind of saying, well, this is what I think. Because if you watch that entire scene, and I watched the episode again after watching it the first time, you watch that entire scene, the three are having a conversation and Michelle's not a part of that conversation.
Yeah, she's looking towards Nick. Yeah.
But she's looking whatever the other way because I think she knew that no matter how it went down, that they were not going to be okay in this situation. Like she needed to vote with the other group. Who do you guys want me to vote for? And also it kind of saves your skin in case they were thinking of voting for you. Cause you're saying like, I'll vote with you. I'm not with this group. And look at this, Tyson, Kim, Denise, get rid of them. Like whatever. I would work with you. You just didn't call me over.
Right. Which is smart. Yeah. That was an interesting choice by Sophie. I think she put a little target on herself for that. Are you guys liking the season?
I'm loving it. I'm the whole like I wish there were 90-minute episodes. I wish there were episodes. I couldn't agree with that more, especially with an episode like last week where it was. I love the family visit, so I'm fine with 30 minutes of it. But just because of how insane that tribal council was, I was like, how did Michelle figure that out? How did Nick get in that majority? All those questions, but I know that I know that they can't do that. So I'm really happy with it. I like, it's just crazy to me that we're even watching this kind of season. So I'm enjoying it.
And to me, I felt like last week was my first big complaint of the season. And I complained about Edge of Extinction things throughout. But
I'd like to hear you guys talk about that more.
That's going to happen. And we'll definitely get into Edge of Extinction here. But in terms of how it went last week, I felt like last week was so formative in how the rest of this game's going to go. And I don't understand why it broke out as the 5 versus 5 that it did.
Oh, right.
And I feel like that, like when we get to my power rankings, I feel very strongly that the 5 took control last week are in pretty good shape. But why is that the 5 that took shape? Why did Nick get included in that, but not Michelle? And why was Jeremy left out so hard and Kim? And it felt like it was so formative for what we're going to watch over the next 4 weeks. But I don't really understand why this is how it is. And I would have liked to have seen more of that. And frankly, a little bit less of the families.
And are we just forgetting, because I'm on the same page as you, are we just forgetting what's been built up to this point in the previous episodes? Have they like hinted at it, like that we're just missing or that we're not remembering? Because it's Nick. A lot of information. I know. I'm just trying to maybe give them the benefit of the doubt, but I agree.
Because Sophie, Sarah, Tony totally makes sense. Tony and Ben kind of make sense because Tony and Ben have kind of been...
I think that's the 4. Yeah,
that's the 4.
And Ben was on Yara with Sophie and Sarah, so that makes perfect sense.
So that 4 makes perfect sense to me. But why was Nick all of a sudden included when last week and the week before Jeremy's voting with them and Kim's voting with them, and it seems like Kim's close with them? Like I understand kind of why Denise was left out, and I understand why Michelle is left out, but I don't understand why Tyson, Kim, and Jeremy were so left out of this.
Well, Kim, Jeremy, and Tyson did have that little powwow where they were like, hey, no, there's no friend. So maybe that's just the reason. And then therefore it can't be those 3. So they have to get a 5th. And Nick is the 5th. And maybe sort of Michelle is the 5th or 6th. Just by process of elimination.
Yeah. No, I mean, it makes sense. It's hard. That was the first episode where I was like, I'm having a hard time following this. And it's kind of like anybody who like watched the last season of Game of Thrones. I personally liked most of it, but like when you're watching it, you felt like there'd be a lot of things that were just said that it was like, oh, I feel like I should have, like there should have been a storyline to that, not just here's the line of dialogue and now understand that that's how it's going to be. That's kind of what it felt like last week, where it was just, this is how it is. You should trust us.
And in fairness to them, either they put themselves in this hole or CBS did with the family visit and the time, right? They had to do that, I guess. This is the best they could do with the time that they were allotted. Do you guys think they were greenlit for 90-minute episodes or 2-hour episodes before the season began? Before they started filming, actually, I will say. Ask.
I think I don't know enough about CBS's broadcast schedule, but I feel like 2-hour episodes is tough to just construct because what is it? SEAL Team they have on after Survivor, and it sounds like last week's SEAL Team was a repeat. So I feel like in this situation, it's even more of, oh my gosh, like you put on a repeat afterwards. But for a live show, or not a live show, but for a show that they own that 9 p.m. slot, I get that they can't chop it in half. I feel like it's actually probably easier to just completely move the show than to cut it into a 30-minute segment.
And what ends up happening, I don't think that they were greenlit for it. And I think, like, with contracts and things like that, they might be able to say to CBS, okay, we get 2-hour episodes or something like that.
Oh, okay.
But I guarantee right now they're kicking themselves that they didn't give Survivor longer episodes, because imagine it, like, obviously you don't know that this is going to happen. You cannot foresee that coronavirus is going to just come into our culture the way it did. And the way it did, imagine now if CBS is going to struggle over the summer because, like, you can't, I mean, Big Brother films live. That's not going to happen now. And other shows that need to go into production are going to be delayed. Imagine if they had SEAL Team instead to just put over the summer with a shortened season, kind of what happened with the writer's strike back in, 2007 or whatever it was. If you could have predicted it, they would love to have Survivor with 2-hour episodes right now, because Survivor is getting great ratings. And the fans are really turning out for it and are craving more content. So I think ultimately, like, I don't think they were greenlit for it. I think that it was maybe in discussions, and that's maybe why we're seeing a 2-hour episode right before the finale, then the 3-hour finale, and we got the 2-hour premiere, and maybe they were able to make deals with them like that. But I think you also have to make, if you're CBS, you're also making deals with SEAL Team, and the producers of SEAL Team and the showrunners of SEAL Team don't want to make those deals.
I just don't know how you agree to do Edge of Extinction with just an hour long or 42-minute long episode after doing it the first time. Like, how can you possibly say we're going to have enough time? You don't. And let's not do Edge of Extinction, or if we're going to do Edge of Extinction, let's have 90-minute episodes, one or the other.
And I also wonder, these are all questions that I don't know, but I wonder how long, because I know that they've been talking about an all-winners season for a very long time, but how long was there in between legitimately saying we're doing an all-winners season and flying them out and getting that
question
set? Because I don't know how far in advance you set TV schedules, but I assume it's fairly far in advance. So maybe the Edge of Extinction came in late, or maybe the all-winners came in fairly quickly. So then by the time they're out for filming, that time slot's already filled. I really don't know.
And I feel like it's one of those have your cake and eat it too situations where Survivor wanted the all winners. They wanted the winners as long as they could. With Edge of Extinction, they're assuming everybody's going to stay. Sandra quitting is definitely a bummer for Jeff and all of them. They would love to see Sandra there just making people miserable, knowing she has no chance to come back. Like, they would have.
Why did she do that anyway? She could have done that, right? She could have made everybody miserable to try and make them quit. No?
That would have been great.
I don't think it would have worked, though. I think they all know Sandra too well that they probably wouldn't be as instigated as, like, Johnny Fairplay back in season 7.
Okay.
That's
unfortunate.
Right. But I do think they wanted to make sure they could have these characters as long as they possibly could. And then what ultimately ends up happening is kind of the same situation as the first Edge of Extinction. If the winner, or if a final 3 player from Edge is from Edge of Extinction at this point, and they were voted out pre-merge, we're going to have episodes where the winner or person in final 3 was not even in the episode. And I think that's such a problem with Survivor, because you need, like, that's the point of Survivor, is that every week you see how these people get to the point they get to. How did Ty, how did Aubrey, how did Michelle get to the final 3? How did Sydney get left out of the final 3? Now, if Natalie Anderson or Amber come all the way back and get to final 3, there's 2 or 3 episodes in there where we don't even see them. They're not even on our screens. That's crazy, because that's not just like, oh, it's a purple edit. They're literally not on our TV and not a part of anything that happens in the game.
Right. I mean, you're preaching to the choir. And then my argument would be, why are we even, if it's going to be another Edge winner, why are we even watching the regular game then?
That's
there's no point. Like, which show are we watching? It's like if your favorite character gets killed in a TV show, or gets sent away to jail. Do we want to watch that episode even though their arc is over, even though they're out of the story, or do we want to watch the show that we've been watching from the beginning?
I agree.
It's a different, it's like Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Like, okay, Saul Goodman's a great character in Breaking Bad, But we don't want to see we don't want to see Better Call Saul show while we're watching Breaking Bad. Now, once it's over, fine, we'll watch Better Call Saul. And once Walter White's story's over, we'll watch Better Call Saul, but not at the same time. He can have little bits and pieces. So, yeah, it's just too much to go around. And I hope in the future, if they do Edge of Extinction 3, which I think they probably will. Do you guys think they will? At some point.
Upsettingly, yes.
I thought they
Some
weren't
variation.
going to. I thought they weren't going to.
And it's going to take a break.
But now I'm a little worried, actually, that because of how long we might have between season 40 and season 41, they might bring it back sooner than later. Because now they're getting better ratings, and what people unfortunately are going to be used to watching involves Edge of Extinction, which is
they've got to tweak it. They've got to tweak it.
So I was about to ask so take away the airtime conversation. How do you feel about one, Edge of Extinction, and then another hot topic that Phil and I have been yelling about, whispering at Tribal Council?
Oh, wait, so are we talking about Edge first or whispering?
Yeah, well, I want to hear your opinion on both of those.
Edge, I just don't want to see Edge. I would rather have flashbacks to Edge. Like, if Edge has anything to do with the game, show us nothing, just show me the game. But as soon as Tyson comes back in the game, show me a flashback that he got peanut butter and that's how he came back. Don't show me it like 3 episodes ahead of time. I don't give a crap. Or if Parvati gives tokens to Michelle and all of a sudden she has a 50-50 coin, just show me flashbacks of Parvati giving it. It'll be seconds. It won't be like a whole minute or two. So I don't think Edge is good for the game. If I was playing again, I would not want Edge of Extinction.
Absolutely not. It takes away because, I'm rewatching all the early seasons because my girlfriend has not seen anything except for the end of season 39, literally from the Dan Kelly situation on, and then season 40. That's all she has seen. So we're back watching the early seasons, and I'm watching Survivor Africa, and
she must find it's going to be so confusing.
Oh, I know. But I'm sitting there and I'm watching Survivor Africa, and I love Ethan, love Big Tom, love Lex. And there's so much on the characters. And every time Lex does not get voted out at Final 9 and Kelly Goldsmith goes instead, it's mind blowing because there's no reason Lex should stay in the game there. And it's this drama of all that's going on in the game and Lex and Kelly hating each other. And now Kelly's gone and Kelly can't do anything about it. Kelly now has to sit there and at her final tribal council speech gets to say, thank you so much for voting Lex out of the game. But that's all she can do about it. That's what Survivor is, because Kelly's never going to vote for Lex if he gets to the final 2. Right now, people who hate each other get voted out, go to an island together and get to make amends and be like, oh, we've grown so much. I don't care if you grew so much. I don't care. Grow in Ponderosa. That's what's fun.
And it has nothing to do with the story other than who they choose as the winner. Because Tyson, all right, fine. So it's 2 people's stories, but why? The Ethan thing, the log challenge, that was great, right? I give it to him. That challenge was cool. It was nice to see. But I would argue put that in the game. Put that on the tribe beaches and have them do mini challenges to earn tokens. But that 5-minute clip, as great as it was, it has nothing to do with the actual game and how people are maneuvering to win the game in the actual game. So I just don't see the point of showing any of that stuff.
And it's kind of fun because Survivor, me and Alexa are huge Lost fans. I'm not sure. Are you a big Lost fan?
I watched the first 2 seasons, I believe, and then I fell out.
Okay. But you got to compare Survivor to every other TV show, and I think that's why Survivor has done so well. And when you compare it to a show like Lost, season 1 of Lost, fantastic, all the flashbacks and everything like that. Season 2, they started introducing new characters. Then all of a sudden, you started getting these D storylines. There's the SOS one with Bernard and Rose, who are minor characters who aren't even, they don't even get billing in the main cast. They're always guest starring when they're on, and they're in maybe 8 episodes. And you watch that episode and you realize this has nothing to do with the overall story of Lost. I don't care that this is going on, despite the fact that it's a cute episode and it's about how they met and all of that. It has nothing to do with ultimately Jack and John Locke and Kate, what you care about. And while the Ethan moment was phenomenal, and I love Ethan and he's great, it did not do anything to progress what's going. If Ethan doesn't come back in the game, we could have watched 5 minutes of the winner or somebody who's going to get blindsided, or of Nick making some sort of alliance with somebody here that makes it make sense at this final 10 vote. So that's just where I think.
I agree.
Yeah. Alexa, you agree with all that? I know we kind
Yeah,
of
the Survivor and the Lost in and out. We haven't done that in a really long time.
I miss it. But and then the other question was whispering at tribal council. Alexa and I talked about
where were you about that?
Yeah, I sent out a tweet about it because I thought about it like, I don't know, I woke up late in the middle of the night. I'm like, wait a minute. They forbid us from whispering at camp. So like Aubrey, Julia, maybe Michelle whispered to me, but like Aubrey definitely whispered. And the cameraman and the boom guy or the camera woman and the producers, they would look at me, and because I was looking at them, and they would get pissed at me because Aubrey was whispering in my ear and they couldn't hear it. And I was like, I'm not in charge of what Aubrey's doing. Like, why am I getting scolded? Or at least that's how I felt. And they would like hit the boom mic on players' heads to be like, hey, stop whispering. Like, we can't hear anything. Like, we don't know what's going on. And then like people, I think Davey replied to that and he said, yeah, he got a lesson in it with him and Alec. And then
so this is really recent.
Well,
they're starting to allow this.
Well, no, but that's at camp that they say, hey,
okay.
you can't do that because we don't know what's going on. We don't know the strategy. So my opinion is, if it's not allowed at camp, why are we allowing it at tribal? And I get they're not set up for it, maybe because I think the way they went when they went further past the torches, cameramen should have ran in with a boom mic and whatever else and been like, all right, you guys are gonna have a discussion, we'll film it. Mm-hmm. And who was Brendan Shapiro? No, wait, what's his name from Ghost Island? Yeah, right. Brendan Shapiro.
Yeah.
He said like, oh well, we have mics to our shirts so they can hear the whispers. They can if you're whispering in your ear. So, and they have a choice to show the dialogue or not at tribal. But if it's not allowed at camp, I don't see why it would be allowed at tribal.
Yeah, I agree. And I think we've hit a point now where the first time it happened, it's interesting and it's like, ooh, this is different. And like when Haley did it in Game Changers, I thought that was kind of cool when she was just like, whatever she says, I don't agree or whatever she says. Like those are cool moments, but now it's kind of gotten too far. And like watching Survivor Borneo recently, like I did, and then watching what's happening now, it's the same thing where Jeff asks a question and the question doesn't have a purposeful answer. If you watch Borneo, they all start talking over each other at tribal council, and it doesn't matter. You're like, okay, fast forward to the vote because I don't care that Stu, Jervis, and all of them are talking over each other. It's kind of the same thing here. Jeff asks a question, and we're being told this question doesn't matter, but also you can't hear anything anybody's saying. So you're just like, it's like watching strobe lights. Like you're just watching the lights. That's all you're doing. It's not actually giving an effect.
Well, imagine we did that. Imagine it wasn't forbidden at camp and we just whispered into each other's ears the whole time at camp. There wouldn't be a show. What's the point? Alexa, so what would be your solutions?
I think so. I think that the problem is, I feel like when it first happened, like you said, Phil, everyone was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy. This is so cool. I feel like now as a viewer, it's a little tired because now I have no idea what they're talking about. I had no idea how they came to any conclusion at tribal council. The three of us just tried to figure out how Michelle knew to vote for Tyson. The problem is, I don't know if Jeff wants to say, okay, you all need to just shut it down, or if they'll listen to him. Because I think in this season, it's not to say that they don't have respect for Jeff, but I think with this season, it's much more of a playful relationship because they've done this with Jeff before. So I assume the players know what boundaries they can push and what they can't. And I think right now the whispering at tribal is almost becoming a norm for this season because we've seen it. I think we've seen it 3 times, and apparently at Danny's boot, the tribal council where Danny was voted out, whispering happened there as well.
And Kim in this episode was using it as a strategy because she wanted to find out who they were voting for so she could play the idol. So she purposely started whispering because she knew that it would get people to get up and start whispering. Like that's at least what I believe. And now you're starting to use it as a strategy, which is cool. But it's kind of gotten to the point now of almost like with idols. When Gary Hogaboom finds that idol, it's awesome. You're like, holy crap, how did he do that? When Terry finds an idol, it's like, oh good, now we have a hero to root for. When Russell is finding idols in Samoa, it's awesome. And then all of a sudden you get to a point where like now everybody's just finding idols and it's so easy and people are like tripping over them. Like Lauren O'Connell thinks that it's a sock. And like you see these types of moments and it doesn't have the same effect anymore. And like, so what was working at the beginning doesn't have an effect. And I think like knowing how production works just on any TV show, if the producers say something, a writer, which is essentially like, for Survivor, they don't have writers, so they would have to say it to the cast. But if a producer says something to a writer on a show, you can't do this, the writer can't do that. And if they do it, they're going to cut it out of the show. And what needs to happen is the producers needs to say to the cast members, like, okay, this season it's banned. I mean, they've made rule changes in Survivor. In the early seasons, this type of thing would have been banned. I mean, maybe up until your season, even it was banned. You couldn't be whispering at tribal council. I don't know when the first time it happened.
No, I think he would have. I think Jeff would have loved for that to happen on our season. We just didn't behave that way because we hadn't seen Second Chance. Did they do it in Second Chance? I'm pretty sure they did. Or was it Millennials Gen X they started it?
I forget.
Well, I know it happened in Game Changers because when Michaela went home, that was a big whisper fest, right? Am I right?
Yeah, I mean, he loves live tribals. I know that. Well, this is my pitch. All right. So they did the whispering before they played the advantages, right? Safety without power and steal a vote.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So what if there's no I know that's
and after
what?
And they whispered again after.
Yeah. So I'm trying to stop the after part of it at the very least. So what if there's no advantages where Jeff says, all right, is everybody ready to vote? It's time to vote. What if there's no advantages before you vote, only until after the fact? Does that help mitigate it at all? Like, let's say safety without a power, right? Wasn't, hey, Jeff, I've got this for you before we go vote. I'm out of here. You can't vote for Jeremy. Jeremy doesn't get a vote. Why not safety without a power is Jeremy, everybody goes to vote. Jeremy goes to vote. He doesn't vote because he's got safety without power. He goes back to his seat. Jeff reads the votes. Jeff's like, you know what, Jeremy? You got to go before I read the votes. See you later. Any votes for Jeremy do not count. So it's basically an immunity idol with a little penalty because you don't get to vote in your alliance. It's just a watered down immunity idol, right? And then what about steal a vote? Steal a vote. Everybody goes up to vote. Sarah goes up to vote. She gets 2 votes. She tells who she's going to steal the vote from in the confessional. Whoever goes up doesn't get to vote. Let's Denise goes up to vote. She doesn't have parchment paper.
I think the problem, I love this. I do love this, but I think the problem is it kind of goes back to the producers want those huge moments.
I know.
I'm going to grandstand and like get up and make this whole thing.
The Jeremy and Sarah standoff was
that's what Jeff wants.
Yeah.
I know, but you got to do that after the vote somehow.
Yeah. And also that the whole, what I think is really cool about the safety without power, because this is the first time we've really seen it. I know Janet was offered it, right, last season, but she didn't end up getting it.
She didn't take it, and then there was she didn't take it because she said that it wasn't going to work or something like that.
At least this was the first time like live in game and actually played. For them to then be able to re-strategize, it doesn't take away any power from Jeremy, but it takes away the like, oh my gosh, I have to really think on my feet now.
Yeah. Yes.
Just leave and then them immediately vote. That would have been awesome.
And think about when the first immunity idol was ever played. Gary Hogaboom says, I have an idol. And Jeff says, okay, everybody get up and vote. There is no discussion. There's no who are you going to vote for. It is immediate. He played. And Jeff literally, I forget the exact quote, but he says, okay, everybody must be quiet. Get up and vote. Like it's something along those lines where he does not let them breathe after Gary plays that idol. It's so much more dramatic.
I know. They took the drama all out the vote by saying us 5 come over here.
Yeah. They did.
And I think they'll learn from it. I do think the producers will learn from this. However, they tweak it.
Well, and that I guess that can lead before we go into the power rankings here. I guess that can go into the question that you wanted to ask us. But how long do you think they're going to have to tweak this, Nick? How long do you think they're going to have?
You're going to throw it on me? I wanted to ask it.
You can ask us too if you want, but I feel like they're going to do a lot of tweaking here.
Yeah. So what is your over under? Like a good month of when they're going to start up filming again, like where you'd be like, yeah, I could see that month, or I could see it right after. Do you say it's July? Do you say it's not until next spring because they won't have the hotels booked up and Fiji booked up for October, November, December, or whatever to get off of spring season. So what is your guys' opinion on what it could be?
I can go first.
You should go first.
Okay,
Go ahead.
I can go first. Well,
Okay.
I think what's going
Give
to
us
happen.
multiple thoughts, like lay it all
Yeah,
out.
I have a lot here.
Because
I have a
you know
lot-
production.
So I sit here and I've been trying to be as optimistic on this as I possibly can, to the
Ooh.
chagrin of a lot of my friends.
I'm
Phil is a
pessimistic.
wildly
I'm
pessimistic
pessimistic.
guy.
Yeah.
Every time I speak to anybody, though, just regarding coronavirus at all, even if I say, like, I don't think the country's going to open back up till October, people are like, you're an idiot. And I'm like, oh, my God. Like, so I feel like I'm constantly being told, like, I'm being too optimistic no matter where I fall in this. And I feel like we do live in, not to like be too annoying, but I do feel like we live in a negative society. Everybody kind of like always deals in pessimism these days. That really seems to be how it feels. I do think, though, because even though Survivor and SEG will not have rented out the Fijian hotel that they always rent out, tourism is going to be devastated by this coronavirus, no matter what happens, especially a place like Fiji, who they had one case come into the country and they shut down all flights for 2 months. I mean, 2 months when they had one case come in, because they cannot handle an outbreak like we had in New York City in Fiji. Like, that just can't happen. And so I think that because tourism is going to be so devastated, people aren't going to be like, oh man, when you first are allowed to finally get out of your house and go somewhere, I feel like people are going to go, if you're in California, you might say, okay, I live in LA, maybe I'll go up to San Francisco or I'll go down to San Diego, but I don't think you're going to be like, I got to get on a plane and go to Fiji. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think if CBS and SEG and Fiji feel that it's safe, they're going to be able to get there, because I don't think that, like, I think it's going to make Fiji money ultimately rather than lose them money. If that
Let's say all three of those parties say yes. How long after that time, when they say yes, do you think they can start filming?
I believe that they're going to be filming late fall, probably.
So October, November.
Something like that. I feel like they would do that like before Christmas, and there would be no fall season, and instead it would be a spring season, but like early. Because even like when I was watching Africa recently, because 9/11 happened before the filming of Africa didn't start till mid-October in terms of when they actually started airing it. And I think that we could see something similar where it might start, like, schedules get thrown off, which the TV schedule doesn't matter as much anyway. And all of a sudden this is happening mid-January, we're getting a premiere, or like January 13th, we're getting a premiere rather than end of February or something like that. Because the demand is going to be there. People are going to want to watch more Survivor, just like they're going to want to watch sports and things like that.
So then are you saying they'll film 41, 42 back to back, or just 41?
That I'm up in the air on. I could see them just filming 41, airing it in the spring, and then filming 42, 43 in the spring if everything is back to how it could be. So now you're still on that 2-season schedule, but you're filming 1 season out of whack.
So they'll lose 1 season, potentially, you're saying?
Yeah, that's kind of how I see it going. Do I think that they would want to do it earlier? Yeah, I absolutely do. I mean, I know that, for everything that goes on out there, and this isn't like a political statement, but we have come a long way in the amount of months that we've known about this thing. And just like even in the last month, we've gone from nothing to making progress. And I think by the fall, we're going to have made a lot of progress on a lot of things. It's just going to be a matter of, when we make this progress, how safe are they going to feel? Because Survivor doesn't just have American workers. And not just even Fijian workers. They have Canadian workers and workers from Asia and Australia. And if that's going to be the case, how are you going to get all of these people to feel safe, and then also have 20 people feel safe while they're starving and all of that? And like those first 14 days, how are you not going to have them all going through panic attacks of, is coronavirus going to suddenly settle into my body because of just the conditions we're in? So it's going to be a balancing act. I think they're going to want to do it as soon as possible. I think that's how everybody is in terms of entertainment. I think people want to get the content out there. But you have to be somewhat realistic. I was originally thinking that they would be able to film it in the summer, like August. But now I'm starting to lean more towards the October, November, film 1 season, get it out in the spring. And unfortunately in the fall, I think the only content we're really going to have in the fall is sports. And I do think sports will be back in some sort of capacity, but I don't think we're going to have many new TV shows or especially not reality TV like this.
All right, Alexa, let's hear it.
So I
like that.
I really thought I was leaning towards a fall filming with the winter season. I don't know if they shorten it. I think the benefit is a really weird word here, but as we've been talking about TV schedules, the good thing is everyone's TV schedule is going to be a total disaster in the fall because everything that's airing right now has already been worked on. Once we enter this next broadcast year, like you said, Phil, Big Brother's probably not going to happen this summer. So how are you going to fill all that airtime? I think they are going to film 41 and 42 back to back. I don't know how. I think they. I don't know what the timeline was in between them officially pulling out on 41 versus when it was supposed to when people were actually supposed to fly out. I think it was like less than a week.
It was like 3 days before.
Very, very, very close. That makes me believe, as someone who knows nothing about how to set up a reality TV show, I assume that a lot of like challenges were left there and some things were already set up. So I hope and assume that once Fiji does grant the green light of, okay, everyone from 100 different countries from all different walks of life can now come here, there isn't as much prep. So once they fly out, like maybe they can start interviewing, start filming pretty much immediately. That would be good for timing wise. I think also, like you said, Phil, this would be good for the Fijian economy because tourism is just really not going to be great, especially in the fall. I think they have to film them back to back because I think losing a season is just, because they have these, I know they have the 41 cast set up. I assume the 42 cast is working. What I'm curious about is, like you said, Phil, with the player safety, are any contestants thinking, oh, how do I feel about jumping on an international flight right now? So are any workers, is there any issue there? Are there employees still there? That I just have absolutely no idea of. So I think that part they can kind of work through now, but I think they'll film them back to back because I think once they're there, you're good. I think.
And you think they'll film in fall or summer or?
I think they'll film in early fall.
Okay.
Because I think Phil makes a good point that I've been in this house for 1 month today, and New York is not in no way, shape, or form good, but you see the bell curve. Mm-hmm. So that's 1 month. If we're talking about September, that's 5 months from now. I really hope and believe that in 5 months we'll be able to film this.
Mm-hmm. Okay, I like those thoughts.
Very optimistic.
Yeah, to me, it's optimistic.
Yeah.
I think
people coming from different countries is the tough part.
Yeah, maybe that's just because I want to be surprised or happily surprised. If they're like, "Hey, we're gonna go film and it's gonna be good. We're set." Yeah, I don't think they're gonna be filming this year.
Would not surprise me at all.
Because here's the thing: if you do go film in the fall, what happens if somebody in Fiji, anybody in Fiji, gets coronavirus? They shut it down this time. Yeah, so then your production gets shut down in the middle of it. So now you have no seasons at all, and now all that money that you just spent, all the contestants you just brought, are just wasted. So like,
yeah, you have to get a new cast then.
Yeah, and then like potential lawsuits if one of the contestants get it and you have it, and you're like, well, wait, you guys just risked my life to bring me here, and I agreed to it, but maybe you signed something to say that, hey, I'll risk my life. Or if
maybe the contract's reworded after this.
Yeah, and I do think if let's say they do go film in fall, right? Well, then their whole casting is shot for 43, 44 until later. They have to push all of that back, right? For the most part.
Yeah, for the most part, but a lot of the people who work I guess because of Jeff, but Jeff could probably do a lot of his stuff through Zoom or something like that. So I'm not. I understand where you're coming from.
They're creative. If they're filming, are they working on creative? I mean, they could obviously on their downtime and off time.
And creative, I know creative for the most part normally gets together in the beginning of the year. So I think like they would have already gotten together. They wouldn't get together till after it filmed anyway. Because they normally do it like kind of like once a year, it seems like. So I don't know. I feel like it's ultimately it's going to come down to doctors and treatments. And I mean, I'm not one of the people who's sitting here saying, oh, we're going to have a vaccine right around the corner. But if there starts to become treatments the treatments start to prove effective, all of a sudden, like you can start to
if there's a vaccine. Yes, I agree with that. Yeah. I'm just pessimistic on that now. And I just saw Fiji. They were quarantining people for 2 weeks. Now they're quarantining people for 4 weeks as soon as they come in. Wow. So if it's 4 weeks, fine. They give the go ahead, in July. Well, everybody's got to quarantine for 4 weeks, and then you start working on building the structures and building tribal again, and everybody's got a 4 weeks quarantine for the cast too. Yeah. So it's just like, that's as of now. So.
That's as of now, which could change obviously come June, July, August. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is.
I hope I'm surprised. I hope I'm wrong.
I'm Nick. Now that we're talking about this, because someone, Amy Vogel, just said in chat, we have to get to a point where one positive test during filming we have to get to a point where that would not shut it down.
Yeah.
Which we are miles away from.
Seemingly, yes.
Seemingly, yeah, exactly. So that's terrifying. But now, as we're talking this out, the ethics, the reality TV show ethics, I'm now just so fascinated by how this would work. What if you're on season 41 and you're voted out third? Mm-hmm. We're at the merge, whatever. Someone then gets coronavirus.
Yeah, anywhere in Fiji, let's say. Yeah.
You then shut it down. Mm-hmm. You're halfway through a season. What do you do with those players? Mm-hmm. Do you get a new cast? You can't restart it because then the game is messed up. Oh gosh, this is so.
I'm a big fan of Survivor 41 Wyoming, where we just take 20 people, put them in Wyoming. Because Wyoming, if you ever driven through Wyoming, it is just open land everywhere. And I think you put everybody in Wyoming, give them food, because at the end of the day, the survival aspect is not what we're infatuated with anymore. Give them food, let them all be on a huge plot of land in Wyoming, do the competitions, almost film it like a what do you call it? The Survivor, the one that Steve Pickett runs. Almost film it like that.
They would never do that. But I like the out of the box thinking. Yeah, but to the point that Alexa was saying was, all right, let's say they're not going to film until next year or fall. Are they going to get a new cast? Whatever people were told they were on 41, I would be like, damn. What if they want to get new people for if it films in the fall or if it films next year? What if they get bored or they're just like, we've seen these people before. Let's get different people. We came up with a new theme.
Something I thought about that they might do is we just had season 40, which is all winners. We might now have season 41, which is all returnees again because of this and because they have pre-existing relationships with these people. And because that makes it a little bit easier and because there's some sort of relationship there, you can have these types of open discussions before they were actually to fly out or something like that. And on top of that, if you have to go almost an entire year, let's say, before the next season airs, you're making sure that, look how many people are watching right now. And I think a lot of that obviously is because people don't have anything to do, but a lot of that also has to do with the fact that it's returning players. If you haven't watched Survivor in 15 years, Ethan's on Survivor 40 sounds good. I think that if there's a year in between, you might say, you know what, let's do a Legends. Let's kick it off with something that gets people a little more hyped about it to bring people back into it. And that might especially work in my theory of they only can film one season. They know they're going to get their money's worth out of that type of season.
Yeah. Okay. Or do a fan vote, any type of fan vote with Legends just to get buzz going or whatever.
Yep. I completely agree. But hey, it's all questions that, the way I look at it is, if you listen to any politician speak, any doctor speak, anybody speak, anybody who's trying to predict more than 30 days ahead, it's impossible. It's impossible. As quickly as things went bad, I know that this is an optimistic thought, but you always have to remember, as quickly as bad as things went bad, things can also go good. Right. For every reaction, there's an equal opposite reaction. That can happen at some point. Now, is it going to happen tomorrow? No.
Yeah, we can have a vaccine tomorrow, but then they got to go through the testing to make sure it's safe. But yeah, it could come sooner than later than we are saying.
Yeah, something could happen positive sooner than later that all of a sudden we say, you know what, we're okay. Now, granted, I'm going to get so much hate mail on this. I don't give a shit. I'm trying to spit positivity out there because every time there is no news anymore. In the world, there's only one thing, and that's coronavirus. You can't go on sports or anything else. Everything is related to coronavirus somehow. So trying to be somewhat positive because most things are completely negative.
That's a good thing.
So who's everyone's number one in the power?
Why don't we just go 1
let's
to
do
9
it.
real quick since we did 45 minutes of not doing power rankings. Let's just
Right?
1 to 9. Goodbye, everybody. See you later.
Am I going to go first here? If
Yeah,
we're
who's your number
Who's-
one? Who you
who's
got
the
in spot one?
Who's the safest person this week?
I switched it up after I watched the episode a second time. I'm going to say Ben.
What do we think about Ben? Let's hear it.
I think Ben is right in the middle between Tony, Sarah, and Sophie. So that's why I think he's safe. I think he's the middleman out of those three. I think Sarah likes him. I think Sophie likes him. And I think therefore he's connected to Tony. So I say Ben.
Yeah, I have Ben in my top here, but a little bit lower. I think what's interesting about Ben is they all also view him as somebody they can all beat, which is helping him.
Really?
I
Why do
think.
you say that?
Well, I'm not saying necessarily that that's exactly what exactly what they're thinking, but like Tony definitely wants to sit next to somebody like Ben. I think Tony thinks he can beat Ben, and I think Sarah thinks she plays a better game than Ben. I think Sophie thinks she's played a better game than Ben, because even though they didn't really see what he was doing at the beginning of the game, they definitely have heard things, and they know Boston Rob doesn't really like Ben, and they know Adam might not like Ben, and so I think they all think that they can get along with. They can beat Ben in a final because they can make pretty compelling arguments as to why they played a better game than him. So that's just my opinion. But I still think he's very safe this week for sure. Is he your winner pick right now, or you just have him at 1 for this week?
Well, see, I was swayed because I saw on the subreddit that Ben has voted correctly every single time this season. And after seeing the second, watching the episode twice, I was like, yeah, you know what? I think he's in the middle of everybody. And he's getting all the information. So yeah, so I'm going to say Ben is my winner pick as well. But Alexa, where do you have Ben?
I have been a little bit lower, but I'll talk about him because my 1, 2, and 3 are all quote unquote similar. I actually have Michelle at number 1, Nick at number 2, and I have Ben at number 3. So sort of the bottom half of that group of 5/6 from last week. I think they're all the safest here. I think you're right, Nick. I think Ben is kind of floating right in the middle. Some consider him a lion, some consider him a hyena, I think, depending on who he's with. But I think that trio, that Sophie, Sarah, Tony, that's about to be a big fight. And I think those three, Michelle, Nick, and Ben, I think they're looking okay because Michelle and Nick have sort of been left out here and there, but no one's really threatened by them. And Ben, I think, has done a really, really fantastic job of getting close with people, but not seeming that threatening. And I think it helps that people view his win the way that they do, but he's still fitting in with the Jeremys and the Tonys and the big lions. So I think those three are all very safe next week. All kind of varying degrees of safety, but I think they're all going to be fine.
So for all the positivity I spit in the first 45 minutes, I am going to get negative now, and I'm going to say that I believe the next couple episodes of Survivor, despite how entertaining the editors might make them, are going to be very boring in terms of who goes home.
Wow.
I think last week
out of here.
drew the line in the sand, and that's just what I'm thinking. I think like we're in for that alliance of 4 not really being able to rebound very much. And when I actually did my power rankings, I kind of went with who do I feel like is the safest in that group of 5 that we saw. And Nick, I think you made a great point earlier when you said Sophie kind of put a target on her back. So and Sarah put a target on her back, and Nick's already on people's radar. I have Tony at number 1 because I think that Tony, even though he's kind of the one who went against Jeremy here and it's going to cause some backlash, I think that other people are putting targets on themselves, making Tony's job easier to get the target off himself if it comes to him. He's not going to throw Sarah under the bus. He's not going to throw Sophie under the bus, but they're all kind of they're kind of putting their foot in their mouth more than Tony is, which I never thought I would say on this season. Though, of course, we are seeing him run around like a psycho in the preview for next week. So maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like the way this has gone, I just think like that 5 is going to have their way this week. And if they don't, it's going to be Sarah or Sophie or Nick who kind of try to stray and get caught. I mean, remember, Sarah, the first time she played with Tony, did that. She strayed away from Tony because she got in that middle position and it bit her and she goes home. could be a similar situation this week. So I have Tony at 1.
Okay, I'm not against that. I have Tony at 4, so
Okay.
yeah, I think he's in that group, and I think Jeremy wants to keep him around as a shield, even though Jeremy's in the minority. So yeah, and I think the other girl, Sarah and Sophie, want to keep him around. Yeah, I'm not against having Tony up that high, but Tony's crazy, like you said in the preview. I think in the preview, I think he's pulling a whatever he did to LJ.
Mm-hmm.
Where like he threw LJ under the bus somehow by like getting LJ to say you're gonna vote out Wu. So I wonder if he's doing that to, like a Jeremy or a Kim or like if this works, like, oh my God, blah, blah, blah.
And we have seen like, he plays that type of game where you're loyal to him and like he gets you for a vote. It's kind of a Russell type game, though he's probably more loyal of a player than Russell is, where he gets you for a vote on his side and then he tries to spin it on you because it showed that you were willing to flip. Yeah. So like LJ was willing to flip and work with Tony, which then in turn made it easy to sell him back out. Right. And maybe he's able to do that to a Nick this week and say, hey, Nick came and worked with us this week, but hey, Michelle, Jeremy, Nick wants to vote you out. Jeremy, don't you want to come back on our side, come back in and like have the final 5 be you, me, Ben, Sarah, and Sophie? Let's get rid of Nick. He's getting weird. So I could see him trying to pull something like that on somebody. And I mean, but who knows what's going through his head? That's like, he's harder to predict than this virus thing. It's like, you can't predict what Tony is going to say or what he's going to do. It's crazy. So.
Yeah, I'm with that. And 2 and 3, I have Michelle and Sarah.
Michelle.
So you're coming onto a podcast as a representative of season 32, where I always put Michelle at number 1. Your whole season.
Yeah, you're a Michelle stan, I know.
And I have her lower than both of you, and I thought I was putting her too high. What is it about Michelle that has you guys so high on her right now?
Alexa, will you want to take that one? I'll take it after you.
Yeah, I think Michelle is in a really good spot in that people are not threatened by her. And in this kind of season, Phil, I think you're right. I think a line really was drawn in the sand with that 5. But I think this season is moving so fast that there's no way that this 5 is actually just going to stay and just pick off the remaining 4 one by one. I think that's going to switch really quickly. And I think Michelle is someone that, I feel like I say this every week, she's someone that no one is afraid of, but she has no problem. She has no ego. She has no problem being, oh, hey, I'll be a vote. Like, I'll just fling my parchment in the air and hope that I'm doing it right. And when you're someone like Tony, or if you're someone like Sarah and you need a number, Michelle is exactly the person you want to go to.
Yeah.
I agree. I mean, that's preaching to the choir to me. Tony said it best, I would say, at the family visit. He said their families have made them bond together. That's not verbatim. But I do think the people who have families, who's the majority of them, except for Michelle, Nick, and Sophie, right? They don't have kids. I do think these people who are bigger targets are going to be saying, yeah, let's bring Michelle to the end. Let's bring Nick to the end. Maybe not Sophie, because Sophie might be in charge and dictating the votes a little bit. But so that's why I think Michelle is in a good spot, because like Alexa said, there's no reason to vote her out. There just isn't. And it's mean to say, but like I think that was the same thing on Kaoh Rong. And she did better towards the end, and people were like, "Wait, Ty said it. Like, wait, is she like a jury threat now? Is she or is a social threat? Because she's nice to everybody. She gets on nobody's bad side, maybe except for Wendell with that situation. But we know that's not exactly true. So, yeah, I think Michelle's safe by that factor, and everything Alexa said too.
Yeah, I have her the highest out of the group of 4. Like, I have her the highest there because I feel like she's okay. And I said this on the recap. I said the key now, let's say that group of 5 really is tight. And based on the edit, especially 4 of those 5, not counting Nick, have been shown to be very tight throughout the season. They really have. Let's say they are that tight, and this is kind of the beginning of it. The key now is to be the last surviving member of that group of 4. Because then you're the Chris Doherty, then you're in that situation where they need you to vote somebody else out. And if I'm one of them and I'm keeping Michelle because I'm not worried that if Michelle gets into that swing position, if I'm Tony, I'm not saying, oh no, Michelle got into the swing position. She controlled 2 votes and now Michelle's going to beat me at final 3. Jeremy, on the other hand, I'm worried about that if I'm Tony. Like, I'm worried about that if Kim gets in that position. Denise, a little bit less. So I think they won't get rid of Michelle necessarily this week. I do agree with that. I just think like it's going to be key. It's kind of what I said about Adam too. Like out of Adam, Nick, and Michelle, Adam was like the sacrifice that was needed. And now that Adam is gone, Michelle and Nick are probably going to be able to coast for a little while because it's not as simple as 8 versus 2 as we saw last week.
They are, and I think you said in your recap, though, I think Michelle and Nick are out of combinations to win. I think their combination was Michelle, Nick, and Adam going to the end together. And hey, who wins? I don't know. But if they can dictate the game, the 3 of them, then at least they have a fighting chance. Against these other people, I don't see it.
But then the other thing that always throws a wrench in everything is that somebody's going to return from Edge of Extinction.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get to a situation. I mean, Nick, and I'm not saying this, and I love Nick. I love Michelle. I really do.
Yeah.
Met Nick, love him, love Michelle. But imagine a final 3 of Nick, Michelle, and the returnee from Edge of Extinction. I mean that, and like I'm just saying this as a Survivor fan. Like throw my Michelle standing out the window and throw my love for Nick out the window. That's a nightmare scenario for the season if that ends up being the situation.
Unless they control the vote, Nick and Michelle, and
they really turn it on a dime
story.
here.
Yeah.
And it turns into almost like what happened with Danny in Guatemala. Once Gary went home, Danny had to turn it all on, and she's able to kind of navigate that middle ground so expertly that by the time she gets to the end, it's an easy win. It wasn't even a question of if she played the best game because she just did. And Michelle, I think, has gotten the edit more than Nick to be able to have that type of pickup in her edit because Nick was just invisible at the beginning. Michelle, despite the fact that we haven't really seen her since the merge, she did have a really strong pre-merge. I feel like even though when she voted wrong, we got the immediate dang I messed up, which normally when somebody's going to get like smoked at Final Tribal, they don't get the dang I messed up. They get the I'm angry and I hate everyone, so it's a little bit different. So I think she could turn it on a little bit better than Nick because Nick did get the I'm angry and I hate everyone edit after he was blindsided.
But he did that in David versus Goliath. He was like all throwing like a temper tantrum.
He did that a lot,
yeah.
That's his move. I like it. I do like it. I have Ben at 3, just like you, Alexa, and Sarah I have at 4. So I know, Nick, you had just mentioned Sarah, so we can talk about her. But my 2, well, that's what I was gonna say. My 2 is actually Sophie, and the reason I'm putting Sophie there, even though she's putting a target on her back by saying, "Why don't the 5 of us get up and go over here?" Which, first of all, baller move to the jury if you can get to final 3 because that tells them.
She got frustrated, though, I would say. She's like, I'm over this. Let's just go talk about this. What are we doing?
I love that about her.
I love that.
It was like Albert, drop your stacks or whatever.
Yeah. It's so true. But I think it also shows to the jury, like, damn, she said that. And the jury, I mean, Tony got up and walked over there. Sophie in control of Tony and in control of Sarah. Like Sarah and Tony, 2 of the more respected winners coming into the season. And so I think like, plus she has an idol. If they're going to try to spin something on her right now, she's too tight with Sarah. And even if Tony were to go to Sarah and say, hey, they want to get rid of Sophie and I'm okay with it, I think Sarah is going to go to Sophie and tell Sophie because Sarah doesn't want Sophie to go home. Because at the end of the day, even though Sophie's getting a pretty good edit here, I think Sarah sits there and says, I can beat Sophie at the end. I can make a better argument as to why these moves were made that we made essentially together throughout the game. So
I think that's fair.
That's why I have her at 2.
Okay.
Ben at 3 and Sarah 4.
Okay. Where do you have Sophie, Alexa? I have Sophie at 5.
I also have Sophie at 5. I have her kind of smack dab in the middle. I mean, what 3 advantages were played? We had safety without power, we had Kim's idol, and we had Sarah's
steal a vote
played. So Sophie is it's like Sophie and Michelle with her coin. They're kind of the only 2 who have advantages or idols, if I'm correct, which I might not be. So it's just those 2?
I think so.
Yeah, I guess we had a big clearing out last week, but I think, having an idol now, it's absolutely no guarantee. I think Sophie was really smart in not playing it last week, and to our knowledge, the only person who knows, like you said, Phil, is Sarah. So I think Sarah's going to want to keep her, but I also think that Sophie does have, and she's shown she does have a confidence in her alliance, which is really good. But I think I see that alliance starting to splinter. So that's why I'm nervous. And I don't necessarily think that it will be Sarah who turns on her, but maybe people turn on Sarah, don't tell her that, and then whack Sophie. So I have her in the middle. I have her at 5, which is technically a little bit below, but I do feel okay about her. And I have Denise at number 4 because I think Denise is kind of similar to Michelle in that people are not afraid of her. And that's how Denise won last time. So we'll see how that works out for everyone.
I have to say, Alexa, and like I completely agree with what you just said about Sophie and how she would go. But my favorite thing about like that entire talk you just had is that you were considering like this alliance is going to fracture. And like we're so used to saying those things. And like you think about like we did our alliance bracket for our patrons and like these were real alliances. And like we're discussing this 5 as if they're a real alliance when in reality, like we don't even know why they exist, let alone how they would fracture. But like you have to call it something. It's just funny. Like that's what Survivor.
How is Nick in this 5? That's what I still am not grasping.
I still don't get it. But what was your take here on Sarah, Nick? Because we kind of skipped over her. You had her at 3 and I have her at 4. I think she's pretty safe this week, but how are you feeling about Sarah's game right now?
Yeah, so I do have her in that Ben, Tony, Sarah, Sophie foursome with Nick as that 5. But I have her safe because I know her game from Game Changers because I talked to 2 players who were on Game Changers when that was airing, and they were telling me, I think they were just like, wow, like Sarah is such a good player. The things that she does is amazing. And then I saw it in this episode, and then I'm wondering, is this her personality? Like when she was talking to Tony talking at the water well with Tony, I believe, where she was just like, I don't know, getting offended or getting annoyed with Tony. And then Tony was like, fine, we're going to do it. We're going to do what you want. But what I was told was like how she played the game in Game Changers was absolutely amazing from what we were shown, not from what we were not shown, additional information. And so that's why I have her high up there.
Mm-hmm.
And she's just dangerous.
It's a hard game to show. And I think like this is kind of like, you know, when you start to think about the new school winners, they're normally not considered that good of winners, which is really weird. Like if you really think about these newer winners, nobody thinks Ben is a great winner. Nobody thinks Adam's a great winner. Nobody thinks Michelle's a great winner. You know, so like you start going through this and then Sarah gets kind of lumped in as like, is she like, she's not really a great winner either, maybe, but then you start to talk to some of these players. And like, we've had Troyzan on this podcast numerous times and Troyzan always says like, no, Sarah pulled the wool over my eyes. She pulled the wool over Brad's eyes. Like she's playing on another level that you just can't, the camera can't capture it.
Well, what I wonder is that, because I say the same thing with Michelle a lot, is that gameplay or is it your personality? Because if it's your personality, then you can't phrase it as such in a confessional and just be like, well, I'm just like being me. Like, I don't know, you know, but if you are actively doing something, like if Sarah is actively behaving a certain way and like, hey, I pulled the wool over Troyzan's eyes like this, you have to be able to state it and say it and verbalize it and showcase what you're actually doing. I don't know if that's just Sarah's personality though. That could just be her. She has a great personality for Survivor.
And what do you think about like the move she made then when she gave Nick her like the reward and things like that? Like, is that just her or is that gameplay?
I don't know, because if you're in confessional, she said it was out of the kindness of her heart, right? Mm-hmm. But if you're in confessional and it was truly a game move, you would say it's truly a game move, I think, unless you don't want to come off like a terrible person on TV. Like, I mean, like I guess that could be it. Yeah. But you would say it, I think. Wouldn't you two admit that, like, hey, I gave Nick the food reward because, yeah, it's his gameplay. And I think people noticed it too, but I don't give a crap. But I'm still just playing the game as hard as I can. So wouldn't you say that? Or no?
I probably
would. You lie?
But I just wonder, like, is there fear that is there like the Danny Boatwright fear in Guatemala? They were trying to make sure Stephanie could go further. And like, are you scared of that type of thing? Do you think so? And I'm just throwing this out there. Like, do you think that would be the only reason that she would lie about it in a confessional? Would be that type of situation?
Yeah. Or just looking bad on TV and being like, how manipulative she could be, you know?
Because she hasn't looked bad in her first 2 seasons. She looked.
I agree.
Like a bad player maybe in Cagayan, like when she didn't make the right move when she was in the swing vote, but that happens. But she hasn't looked, it's never been like, wow, Sarah, like you're saying, like even Tony, who everybody loves, has said some things on Survivor where people are like, all right, Tony, maybe you went a little too far this time. Maybe you should reel it back in. I haven't really felt like Sarah's ever done that. So maybe we should just take her at face value, but it's Survivor and these are winners, and I have such a hard time doing it.
I know. I don't know.
Who
Wait,
knows?
where do you have Sarah, Alexa?
I have Sarah at my number 4. I was about to.
Okay, so we're all right around each other.
Who are your 3 and 4? Because we've
Wait,
done
so
5, I think.
Alexa, so you didn't have Denise at 4 then? I thought you had Denise at 4.
Oh, I have Sarah. Actually, fantastic transition. Sarah is my number 6. So
Okay, that.
Okay.
not knowing how to do simple math. I'm a little nervous for Sarah because Sarah, again, this is me thinking that this, like, they finally got this big vote. I think they're going to break up after this. I think the little tension that we saw between Sarah and Tony last week, I think that was some foreshadowing. I don't know if that's going to blow up this week or if it's still going to build, but I think Cops R Us are not going to make it to the end together. So I think the two of them are really, really strong players, and we're finally seeing them start to disagree. They're still voting together.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually that is going to splinter as they run out of people to go for. I think also, to Sarah's benefit, she has Sophie. That could make Tony nervous. So
yes,
I still think Sarah's okay, but because I feel like there's going to be a lot of drama around her, that makes me a little nervous for her. So I'm kind of putting her in my second half.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't know about these. I don't know the tally of the tokens, the fire tokens. So like that can be a whole thing. Like who's going to get an advantage? Like who knows?
What do you think about the fire tokens, Nick? Because that's the first time we brought them up on this podcast.
Love the fire tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Despise the implementation of them.
That's a good take.
I do not like how it's involved with Edge. It's terrible. It's ridiculous. I can't believe they even did it. It's the way that the Edge players can impact the actual players, but the actual players can't impact the Edge players. Why is that? That's totally backwards. The Edge players have so much power. Like, why can't the players in the game somehow negatively or positively impact Edge players?
Well,
like,
and I think another thing, and this is like kind of affiliated with that, but not really. But Yule was punished for making it further in the game than anybody else who got voted out earlier. Yeah. You know, so like even like looking at the challenge, like the longer Yule was in the game, the less chance he had of getting an advantage. Like, and so other people are getting advantages for being out of the game longer while also giving advantages. And like in a season like this, it's especially tricky because I mean, you pretty much had 2 couples on this season, even though there's really only one. Natalie and Jeremy are essentially a couple. They played together. They were in an alliance together, and then they both won respective seasons. So they, like, one person gets voted out. Obviously, it doesn't even matter what else you say to anybody else. You're going to give, if you find an advantage of some sort, you're going to give it to that person. That puts Jeremy and Natalie at a much bigger advantage if they're still in the game and the other is out, just like with Rob and Amber. Now, Amber never was able to find anything to give to Rob, but it's such a huge advantage when it shouldn't be an advantage. Like, you shouldn't have an advantage for voting somebody out until the jury phase of the game. And then you should have an advantage for voting them out in a positive way that gets them to vote for you. That's it.
Yeah, the jury has enough power as it is. The people voted out has enough power as it is to vote for the winner. I don't think there should be any game mechanics on Edge at all. It should just make them bored as hell, make them starved as hell, and make them try and quit. But as far as fire tokens go, I think they just need to tweak it, keep it out of Edge, and I think it's brilliant because there's just going to be more reasons to either vote you out or to keep you in. Like Michelle with the 50-50 coin, right? She has 4 fire tokens. She could have went to somebody else and been like, hey, listen, I've only got 2 fire tokens. If you and I get to get your 2 fire tokens, we can get this advantage and share it. Right? That's a strategy move. Now you form an alliance with this person, a shared bond, and like say, hey, I can flip this coin on you or flip it on me. We'll see what happens. So I think there's just a lot of layers to it, not to do the Yule duplicity thing. But Alexa, what is your take on fire tokens?
I like them. I am looking forward to seeing how they work in a season without Edge of Extinction. And I think right now it's kind of cool watching, like, especially watching winners, like really accomplished players, be sort of the guinea pigs for this, because even they don't really know what to do because they're really not being used that much. And I wonder if they're on 41 and there's no Edge of Extinction, are they actually going to buy tarps with them? Like, is an entire tribe actually going to say, hey, let's all pitch in together and get some food and get some tarps? Or are people going to try to get advantages? No one's done that. The only time people have spent money on fire tokens in the game is to receive a gift from Edge of Extinction. Everyone on the edge is eating peanut butter, but no one's bought a tarp, no one's bought food, no one's gone for an advantage with these tokens. So it's almost, and I don't fault them for it because I get it, it's almost as if they don't really know what to do yet. Instead of using them for the purpose that they're being sold as, they're more being used as bargaining chips and more as strategy. And I think it's really interesting. I'm really liking that. Like the whole Denise and Sandra situation was really, really
amazing.
Especially, it obviously ended well, but just that conversation I thought was really interesting.
You just got me like so excited because I'm thinking about on a newbie season, you get one of these old, let's say like Paul Wachter from season 33, one of the first boots. So, like it's just making me think of this. If everybody starts the game with a fire token, and then there's no Edge of Extinction, all of a sudden it becomes a strategy for maybe some of these older players who aren't as fit and are like anything like that to say, you know what, guys, I'll give up my fire token so we can get a tarp. Now you vote me out. You don't get anything from voting me out. My fire token has been spent on a tarp. Vote somebody else out so they have to give up their fire token. You know what I mean? And so it suddenly becomes a way that you can game it. Right now, I'm okay with the way it's happening with Edge and everything only because it's season 40. And if you got to figure out kinks, do it in an all winter season where you're going to be satisfied essentially no matter what. But when Edge of Extinction is gone, I think it does lead to so many opportunities. And, you know, if you're Dale Wentworth, you know, you might be saying to yourself, man, like I got to find a way to prove myself on this tribe. How can I prove myself? Well, I'll use my fire token to get us matches. Now we have a fire or something like that. And all of a sudden you don't have to give people fire. You don't have to give people food. You force them to buy it. And I just started rewatching Marquesas the other night and they gave them nothing because there was so much food and so much fruit and so much like anything there because it's such an unexplored land. Now maybe you don't have to give them rice and it forces somebody into that hero role. And will they be thanked for it or will they be voted out? I think there's a lot of fascinating opportunity with it once it doesn't just become solely about advantages coming from the edge.
Speaking of which, do you guys think it's possible to do a silent auction with the fire tokens and advantages throughout the season? A silent auction.
I think you could.
So let's say
how does this work?
Say it's in the voting booth, right? Or at Tree Mill, one or the other. You have fire tokens. All right, you know, it's announced that there's a silent auction on this. Let's say it's an unknown item, an unknown advantage, an unknown peanut butter, an unknown idol, whatever. It's hidden, secret. And people bid on it with their fire tokens. They put them in, unbeknownst to any other players. Let's say you have the highest bid of 3 fire tokens. You get that advantage. Nobody else knows what it is. Let's say there's 2 bids of 3 tokens each at the highest bid. Maybe you lose all those tokens for gambling. Yeah. Now maybe instead of going to search for advantages in the jungle, you're searching for fire tokens. Maybe you're winning fire tokens in a log challenge, in a mini challenge when you're down day on your 3rd day on the beach, because there's an reward challenge on one day, immunity on the other, and it's a down day on the other. So could you do that? I don't know. Is that boring because you're just sticking coins in a thing?
I'm like oh god, okay. So I'm really liking this, but I don't know. I'm going a lot of different ways here because I'm immediately thinking of like the entertainment aspect of this. Like you said, what if there are no advantages or no idols hidden in the jungle? It's only tokens hidden in the jungle. Every single tribal council, there's either a covered item or not a covered item. So if you know you're going home and there's an idol sitting right there, you can buy it. Or it's covered. I know I'm going home. I buy it and it's a bowl of rice. Like, I kind of love this.
And what's interesting is if you start everybody off with, let's say, like 3 fire tokens, and people just really hate somebody. Like, let's say there's the 3 of us. You guys just really hate me, and you want me to go home, and you know we all have 3 fire tokens, and there's going to be this silent auction. I could possibly buy an idol. The 2 of you get together and say, Alexa goes, all right, Nick, you know what? Here's another fire token. Now you have 4. Go buy that thing so that Phil can't get it. And then you buy. I think it adds a pretty cool aspect to the game. It's going to take a lot of tweaking, but as we've just discussed like a half hour ago, they're going to have plenty of time to tweak coming up. Right. So maybe you can figure out how you can make this work, because I think that's a cool idea. I mean, the auction is something everybody loves.
This satisfies that without going all in.
And I think like what will ultimately make Survivor better in the long run is if they do take these fire tokens to eliminate some of the stuff that has gotten stale, which I think is finding idols, finding advantages. I think even just being given food. If you want to make this game more about the provider, if you want to make this game more about Ozzy, then this is how you use the fire tokens, is to make it so that you don't get anything to start. Now you have to buy it.
If you want Edge of Extinction, make the game as hard as Edge of Extinction, and they have to decide whether they want a jar of peanut butter or some advantages to bid on. Yeah, I totally agree. Thank you. That's brilliant.
Good.
I was just gonna say, to quote everybody's favorite Survivor, you got to get Jeff on the Jeff phone, because we need to have this discussion with Jeff immediately.
I was about to say, I desperately hope that someone from production is listening to this, because I am so into this idea.
And that's what I was gonna say too. They shouldn't know how many tokens you get. Like I saw on the rewatch, Jeff said, "Oh, Tony, you get 2 fire tokens because you won immunity." Don't say how many you get. Like make it like, hey, here's a little bag thing with tokens in it. So now nobody knows how many Tony has.
And go ahead, Alexa.
I just have a question that might lead to another discussion. So you go.
Okay, I was just going to say, and then you could also do kind of going back to Guatemala, which obviously needs to be discussed.
Has been referenced way too
all the time in a podcast.
Ew, no,
but going back to Guatemala, you could have another similar situation where Jamie wins that reward. Remember the one where everybody kind of got like lobster, steak dinner,
and it got worse.
Like a bowl of rice, and like you got one slice of pizza. All of a sudden, like, the rewards can kind of be based around either how rich you are, or maybe if you do land in a certain spot on a reward, you get 2 fire tokens or something like that. Whereas like somebody wins a steak and that's great, but like while you're eating, that's like not even while you're eating it, but like somebody else is able to win like 2 fire tokens or something. I just think it can add so many aspects to bring back some of these classic Survivor elements that people love so much and make it relevant to the new and the newer game, improving on it so that we're not just watching these Russell-like immunity idol finds or just people being handed stuff.
Yeah, because you have to have every single, I think Sesternino has said this before, but you have to create more moments, or if you're going to create a moment, it has to be between people. It has to be like a negotiation, or where somebody can do something wrong or piss somebody off or make somebody happy. Like the more interactions you can make out of those, the better your show.
Absolutely. And I mean, one of the things on All Stars Amazon was when they did that little matching game.
Yes.
So boring to watch, but because of the dynamic it created of the men and women speaking to each other for the first time, or all the All Stars getting to mingle, it made it awesome because now people are interacting in that way. And that's what you need to kind of go back to. Somebody finding an idol now and just having it be narrated doesn't do anything for me, because it's not like the old days. I mean, even in your season has a great idol find. Since that one, we haven't really gotten it. When Scott and Jason are just bigger than Blondie.
Yeah,
they're just bigger than her. So they're able to get that, and she's not able to get it. But it's a really dramatic moment. We're not getting that anymore at all, unless somebody's hiding a fake idol and they're getting duped like Jay or Julie or Lauren or something like that. That's the only time it matters anymore.
Right. Right. What were you going to say, Alexa, on the different side note?
So now every single individual immunity win moving forward have 2+ fire tokens as the reward?
It's a great question. Yeah.
Right.
So now, is that the strategy? Less and less people, if you have a better chance of winning, now you get more fire tokens, or you get the same? Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a great question.
Less and less people and more fire tokens does make me nervous as the numbers get lower, but
are people who win challenges more threats now? They not only win immunity, they win fire tokens.
Exactly.
And that's why I think like introducing some sort of aspect with the fire tokens into the early portion of the game, somebody like Joe Anglim, he wins an immunity. He's always a threat anyway before he wins immunity. Then he wins immunity and he's a huge threat. Then he wins immunity and gets 2 fire tokens. Now he's an even bigger threat. But if he did something earlier in the game with those fire tokens and was able to kind of say, you know what, guys, you all have 2 or 3 or whatever, and I'm going to give all mine up to help the tribe. Now he's put himself in a position where when he wins immunity, he can just get the fire tokens that are being handed to him, and everybody always feels like he did something for them. And there's so many strategy elements you can use in it that I think are really great for the game. We just haven't seen it get there. But then again, if we were doing podcasts in season 11, we would have all thought, oh, that was cool with the idol, but what are they going to do with it next? you see the evolution of
play it out.
Survivor, you know, and that's why when people ask all the time, especially right now, what season should I start with? Just start watching. Because if you start watching from the beginning, you see how these things evolve and how we get to the point that we're at right now. And I can't wait to see how the fire tokens do evolve.
I actually watched the seasons in reverse chronological order. When I first applied, I was watching when I first applied, I was watching South Pacific in 2011, and then I just started watching 22, 21, 20, 19, 8. I was like, all right, I guess I'll just do it this way.
So by the time you actually went out there, you thought Borneo was the most authentic version of Survivor and what had happened most recently.
This is how to play.
Yeah. It was a different viewing experience for sure.
Yeah, I love that though. But so going back to these power rankings, Alexa, I got you at your 6, and me and Nick, I got you at your 5. So my 5 is Michelle, who you guys both talked about. Nick, though, one thing I want to ask you with Michelle, or two things I want to ask you. One, I want to ask you how you think she's playing on this season as compared to maybe how you thought, because I know Kaoh Rong, you weren't the biggest like Michelle advocate. And then also, what do you think about her buying this coin, and is that going to help her at all?
I do think she's playing a pretty similar game as Kaoh Rong. Like she wasn't. I would say Aubrey. I would still say it, and obviously I'm biased since I voted for Aubrey. I would still say Aubrey and Sydney controlled the votes post merge. I don't know if that can be disputed. I don't think it can. And so I would have voted for Sydney potentially if Sydney won the fire making challenge. But so I think Michelle is playing the same game. I don't think it'll win her this game the way she won our season. I think it was just made for her in that sense with the jury. But as far as the 50-50 coin, yeah, I think, I don't know if I would have bought it. Is a 50 chance, if there's a 50% chance on an idol worth 4 fire tokens? I don't know, because you don't know what 4 fire tokens can buy you. Like to me, 4 fire tokens should buy you a Tyler Perry idol. But maybe a Tyler Perry idol is 10 fire tokens. You don't know, so I can't hold it against her. And you people have said this before. You can't say no to an advantage from Edge because it's somebody from Edge who's going to be a jury member. And if you give them fire tokens, their life is going to be better because they can buy peanut butter or they can buy an advantage in the challenge. So can you say no? I don't know.
I don't think so. And that's why, like, especially like she's got to be thinking this is probably coming from Parvati, somebody who like really was close with her out there. Now all of a sudden you start thinking Michelle gets emotional. And if Michelle gets the final 3 with like Tony and Sarah, does Parvati still vote for Michelle? Because at the end of the day, the person who Parvati had the best relationship with throughout the entire game, the person who best benefited Parvati's game, even when Parvati was out of the game, was Michelle.
I would think that, she would vote for Michelle. But to me, that's not the way to vote.
It's not how
it's not the way the game should work, but it's the way it is in this.
Yeah. And with Edge, Edge is similar to Ponderosa, but at the same time, they're rooting for their own person to win. Like if Tyson enters back the game, he's been voted out twice. Are they going to vote for Tyson?
You can't.
I know, right? You would think not. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but then again, Chris Underwood won against the guy who didn't get a single vote all season long.
I know.
I mean, I'm just saying. So, I mean, I think anything can happen, and I think you're spot on, and I kind of said that in defense of Michelle. We don't know. Like, this is like the first person who had $1 in their hands. You didn't know what the value of $1 was, and
you can't blame them.
And fire tokens at some point are going to be super inflated, just like everything else goes through inflation over time. And look at the way the auction started off. They were giving out, Jeff was literally giving out a little bit of a protein bar to Colby for $260. And then all of a sudden you get to like season 10 and people are buying full steak dinners for $40. Like, it's just, it changes the way that everything is valued.
And this could all, I mean, this is going back to our screen time discussion from about 5 hours ago. I think it was Angelina who tweeted, I think her husband came up with this idea. Why couldn't Michelle have said, hey, Parvati, that's kind of steep. Can I have it for 2 fire tokens? Which then is really cool because then it brings up the bartering, but then that is a total time suck. So I don't know how you do that, but
I think it goes back to the silent auction more than anything.
Yeah, that's a good point.
because then it's not as much of a time suck because people are all kind of doing it at the same time rather than because I agree. I thought that was a great idea by Angelina. But if Michelle says no, I'll do it for 2, and then they come back and say, how about 3? And then Michelle, all of a sudden, like it's day 29 and they started this process on day 14. And you're like, all right, what's going on here? So no, I there's so many ways to play with this though. And I think that's what's so much fun. And Nick, also one other thing I wanted to say, I know you were saying like, you can't really dispute that Michelle was in control of these votes. I know you were there, but I like Michelle, so I can dispute it. And you were wrong. So,
hey, listen, I believe in a healthy, friendly discussion. Like everybody can have a side. Can't we just be nice to each other? And like here's the thing. Maybe people who would have voted for Aubrey and maybe people who would have voted for Michelle are both wrong. Maybe Sydney was the best player or the one who was controlling everything. Or Ty, which I would have no problem with saying that Sydney did all the maneuvering.
She's a forgotten player already, though, Nick, and I think it's cool that you're giving her some credit because Sydney is somebody who was quickly forgotten from the Survivor community for some reason, and I think she played a really great game in 32.
Yeah, Sydney's a fascinating person in the sense that for whatever reason, she was able to get people to do what she wanted, certain people. And it almost reminds me of a Sandra, like you're feared by her, but you also like her. So you do it and you just do it. So I do think Sydney's a great player. I'd love to see her play again.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay, so wait, now are we at number 6 now or what?
Yeah, Nick, real quick, who are your 3 and 4? I didn't write them down.
I have, Ben number 1, Michelle number 2, Sarah 3, Tony 4.
Gotcha. Okay. Now I'm ready for your 6.
Now who's your 6?
6, I got my name. I got Nick. I think he's a floater, which is not a bad thing. I don't think the players respect him, just like maybe they're not I don't think they're taking his input. I don't think they're using his input. I wonder if he's naming alliances. We have no idea, like he did in David versus Goliath. But yeah, I don't think they take him seriously, and therefore he's on the outs. But I do think he has a chance to blow things up, whether it's with an advantage, like we saw in David versus Goliath, or if he just figures out to jump to the other side to Denise, Kim, and Jeremy with Michelle, and now it's 5 versus 4.
And I think that would be his smartest move. I don't think he's going to do it, but I think that would be his smartest move. Okay. I also have Nick at 6, but I think like if I'm Nick and Michelle,
I'm going to move you guys for a second. Go on.
Oh, and Phil's frozen at the time you're moving.
No, what did I do?
Am I back? I think I'm
You're
back.
Good.
Okay. If I'm Nick and Michelle, you got to find a way to navigate this, much like Marques's, where when it's 4 against 5, you got to figure out how you can change that and make it so that it's 5 against 4 in the opposite direction, where you're in the majority both times. And like we saw that work for V back in Marques's. V and Sean were able to really make that work. And I think that's what Michelle and Nick have to do here, because if you're Nick and Michelle and you just float with the Tony, Sophie, Ben, Sarah alliance, never going to work. You have you have a 0% chance of winning.
Yeah, you can't.
But if you switch over to Denise, Kim, and Jeremy and vote out somebody in that other alliance, and then even flip back to them and vote out somebody in the other, but you're kind of doing it as a pair. Like, I don't think they're thinking this way, and I don't know what the relationship is like, but that's how they have to do the Will Wall strategy of sit in the middle and just boop, boop, boop. But you have to do that every time. And then all of a sudden you sit there at the end and it's like, not only did we get here, we flipped back and forth between alliances to vote out exactly who we wanted to vote out when we wanted to vote them out. It's kind of what Sesternino did in Amazon, and it would be a really fascinating way to play the game. I don't think they're doing it, but that's their best chance to change their game around.
Yeah, I hope they do it. What about you, Alexa, on Nick?
I think you're right. I think it's kind of like what we've been talking about. I think these newer winners are just, to use a harsh word, I think they're just not respected. But the thing is, Nick and Michelle are super aware of that. Nick comes in every council and he's like, no one wants to talk to me, and it totally sucks. All my friends are on the jury, which actually, now that I said that out loud, that's probably not the worst thing for him. But I think Nick is playing with a lot of passion, and I think him saying that I think it's helping, but I think I just don't know if anyone's ever going to let him command a vote. So how he can get to the end and pitch himself as a winner, like to this jury, I don't know how he does it. I'm sure he does it well, but I don't know how they receive it. But I think in terms of safety, I think he's safe. But then it could get to a point similar to Adam where people are saying, okay, like we got it. Now get out of here.
I do think, Alexa, you bring up a good point, though, how he keeps saying his friends are on the jury. And I think that's a good way for him to earn jury votes if he gets to the end, because if he keeps saying, I was with Wendell, I was with Yul, and if he keeps saying it over and over and over and over again, Wendell and Yul are going to be like, all right, like he was with us when we went home, and now think about who went home now. Like I think that like the further he makes it in the game and the more he keeps talking about those guys as his number ones, they're going to want to vote for him because it's going to almost feel like they got to the end, like as close to what they could have been. It's like when Chris got to the end and War Dog wanted to vote for Chris because it justifies his experience. If Yul and Wendell sit there and say, yeah, Nick, you were our guy and you were managed when we went out 13-12 or 13-11, you managed to make sure that you went all the way to final 3. And this whole time, everybody knows that you lost your closest allies in the game. I think he's doing this purposefully. How well the jury's receiving it, I don't know, but I do think it's part of his strategy.
That's fair.
That's a good point.
Alexa, who's your 7?
My 7 is Tony. So I have him really low. I do not think he's going home at all. I think he is going to be the center of a lot, and that's not because of the preview. I think this all goes back to the Sarah and Tony clash. I think Tony is going. I'm really curious to see how Jeremy is received, because Jeremy just kind of dipped and kind of left that group out to dry, but it obviously saved him. I'm curious to see how Jeremy's like X5 or I guess X4 receives him, because he and Tony have sort of been working in tandem a little bit. I think Jeremy and Kim are really the big lions remaining. So I think Tony might want to jump to them. He might jump with Jeremy, but I just think Tony's going to be running around a lot, so that makes me nervous for him, but I don't think they're going to actually shoot him.
Yeah, I feel like, Nick, you brought up LJ earlier. I feel like Jeremy could get LJ'd here, where it's, hey, man, like, I'm sorry about what happened the other night. Let's vote together this time. Keep telling him that, really put a plan together, and then turn around and just go back to your group of 5 and vote Jeremy out. Because Jeremy's such a big threat. I mean, even though he just bailed and like the jury's sitting there saying, wow, he bailed on his people, and like, Wendell really called him out for it. Even though that looks flaky, he would have went home. So you have to do what you have to do. You have to survive 3 more days or however many more days it is. But he's still a huge threat. And now you're getting down to it. He might be too big of a threat. You don't want him hanging around, because now you are thinking about who do you want to sit at the end with. You don't want to sit with Jeremy. And if you're Tony, you can make arguments that Sarah is a threat and Ben's a threat and Sophie's a threat right now. You don't have to keep around the big threats from before the game, because enough people have made themselves big threats in the game.
Yeah, and I think that's how Nick and Michelle might skate by.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. Who's your 7, Nick?
I have Denise at 7. The reason
bottom here.
Yeah, the reason I have Denise there is just because I think she's a dangerous player. I think she's probably one of the best players, best one-time winners that I know of. She knows how to talk to people and navigate, as we saw with Sandra. But I do think she's a big enough threat where you have to get rid of her. Does that make sense? She's not a threat, but she's a big enough threat where you have to get rid of her. She's not like a Michelle or Nick where it's like, all right, like we think we can beat her. Like I don't know if they think they can beat Denise, so let's get rid of her.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the whole, she voted out Sandra single-handedly. And that, even though that happened pre-merge, that's something you can hang your hat on the entire season. Mm-hmm. And people are going to remember that if she sits at the end and she's going to say, I voted out Sandra single-handedly, and you all still...
And Sandra quit.
And Sandra quit. And you
quit.
You got her so bad that she quit. Another thing that makes me nervous about Denise is I don't really know who she's friends with. And nor that's good, but we're now at a point where, yeah, she's got Kim, but I have Kim.
Jeremy? You have Kim at 9?
I have Kim at 9. I have Jeremy at 8, so I'll finish mine up.
Oh, wait, what do you have then, Phil?
I have Denise at 7. I go Kim at 8, Jeremy at 9.
I have Kim at 8, Jeremy at 9. So very similar. There you go.
Yeah, so you and me have the same bottom 4 here, Nick, where we did take that alliance. Or we put Nick there and moved Michelle up, but then we had Nick, Denise, Kim, Jeremy as our final 4. And then, Alexa, you have Kim. Why do you think Kim goes before Jeremy here?
I just think Kim is Kim walked into this with a huge target on her back, could never really get her footing. I think her and Tyson were very tight. I'm like, you're looking back on secret scenes and there's hints of them being super tight, but it's just not shown. I think going back to this poker alliance that Yul took down, Kim finally gets some semblance of control, loses her idol, loses her closest ally. She's Kim. I think now is the time you have to get rid of her.
But she can win challenges though. Like that's where she's a challenge piece, right? That's the only thing probably saving her. Because like she said to who? Jeremy and Tyson, they have no friends in this game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I guess that's been apparent from the start, which sucks because do you guys then think Tyson, Jeremy, and Kim were drawing dead from the beginning? Or was there anything that they could have changed? And since we're on Kim, is there anything that she could have changed at all to potentially win?
I honestly don't think so.
I don't think so.
I
think
it was
a
0% chance. A cast
I didn't think she had a 0% chance when it started. Like when I was watching the pregame press and all of that, I didn't think she had a 0% chance. But now that we've seen how it played out and we see how much of a role that poker alliance did have, her best chance of winning is Boston Rob not being on the season or Tyson not being on the season. Like I think that's the only thing that would her, you know?
Yeah,
like,
I think the pregame alliances did not work in her favor.
That would be awful. That'd be awful. That poker game that CBS, right? It wasn't on CBS or one of the networks.
No, it was like Poker Night Live. Like it was such a weird channel. Yeah, I don't know. Which sucks because I love her.
Yeah, I think she's a phenomenal player, and I think she's got a great personality. So yeah, it's a bummer.
And it's not like Kim and Tyson were running around like crazy people at the beginning of the game, you know, and even Amber, it was just those three were completely ostracized from the rest of the tribe. We were told because of the poker alliance, maybe there's other reasons. I mean, granted, Amber's a huge person in the Survivor community and Kim and all that. So, but I don't think that there was really much they could have done from the beginning. Alexa, what were you gonna say?
I might correct this. You put Yul on the other tribe. I think Kim has a chance to win. Yul is the reason that
he brought it up.
Yul is the reason that the poker alliance died. I don't think anybody else was immediately trying to target them. So if Yul's not on that tribe, Kim can get her footing. Totally different ballgame.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Still low chance because I think just her getting there is hard. But I think if she gets there, she wins. Which Sarah said last week.
But wouldn't we be saying the same thing about Tony or who else, like Sarah? Like if those two were saying, hey, we have no friends here, wouldn't we be saying that right now? Like, oh, did Tony even have a chance this season because he's Tony? Like, is it just circumstance?
I think it could be circumstantial.
I think it's a little circumstance because the other thing was too, Tony got to remedy a lot of his relationships with, Sandra and with Sarah. And we saw that kind of worked in his favor at the beginning of this game. Whereas Kim is coming into this just being viewed as a threat because of an alliance that I don't even think she realized she was a part of coming into this. Like, I think she was confused that this got brought up and that it was such a big deal. And she didn't get to kind of remedy this. So with Tony, if he would have went home early, I would have been like, I think it's because Tony is Tony, but also because Tony came out and played the same way. Tony could change his game to get this stigma off of him. Kim couldn't really change her game because what did she do when she came out there that was so egregious that made it seem like she deserved to go? If anything, she kind of looked like a bad player.
that we know of. So I would love to hear their retrospectives, hers and Tyson's especially, to be like, well, listen, I could have done this differently. I could have just made everybody laugh, and I could have just pretended not to play the game and just said hey, I'll vote wherever you guys want to vote. Like, hey, everything's great, and just been the nicest person around camp. Like maybe that was the solution.
But then you look at Tyson did change up his game coming in from Edge the second time, and he still goes home just because it was like, we're running out of numbers to vote out, so we're going to vote Tyson out.
Yeah. Okay.
But then again, you look at when these tribes were announced / spoiled, we see Tony and Sarah immediately on the same tribe. Jeremy and Natalie immediately on the same tribe. Everyone said those guys are going to work together. That backfired for Jeremy and Natalie and has worked out beautifully for Tony and Sarah. And they went to tribal council the very next night, and they were not a concern as a pair.
Yeah,
So,
how come nobody's splitting them up, at least as of now? Right,
I don't
or
know.
up to this point.
I think they're being very secretive because whenever they talk, it's always like, we don't have a ton of time.
True.
So I don't know. It's really, really interesting.
So while I don't have much faith in Kim, I do think it's Jeremy this week, though, because he bailed on
Yeah.
tribal, and that makes him so sketchy.
Yeah, that's tough.
He bailed, and they wanted to vote him out this time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was going home. He was going to go home.
And listen, I think Jeremy's a great player. I think he can win immunity challenges, so I think that's still possible. But I think his number's up almost.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And it's a bummer because in a season where there's not so many advantages and not a safety without power, like safety without power, while it saved Jeremy this time, and like I think he made the right move. I think you have to do what you have to do. If there is no safety without power advantage, Jeremy has to stay at tribal. He gets votes. The steal a vote suddenly doesn't mean as much. And even when Michelle ends up voting with all of them, they can't split the votes. You know what I mean? It would have been a 6-4 or 6-3, whatever it would have, or it would have been 6-4. Whatever it was, it would have been 6-4 rather than 5-5 or 6-3. And because of that, they can't split the votes. They have to do a 4-2 type thing. And if the other four guess right, they get it right. So really, like, the safety without power saved Jeremy, which is the right move. But if he would have been more risky and kind of pulled the Jessica Lewis of I'll pull rocks and see what happens, he could have shot himself in the foot and gone out of 10th, but he also could have completely changed the game and been able to correctly guess with Kim playing her idol correctly for somebody and get the other side out. I mean, it's really weird how that went down.
Yeah, but then you don't know Sarah has an idol for the most part, right? I don't think we know. I don't think they knew. Did Kim know? Did Kim know?
Kim knew Sophie had an idol. She doesn't know that Sophie, and then Sophie knew Kim had an idol too.
Okay.
Right?
But nobody knew about the steal vote.
Nobody. Oh, I think Sophie was the only one who knew about it because Sophie had the confessional where she's like, I like her to play that.
Right.
So,
right.
That's it, though.
Okay.
Well, Nick, we agree on Jeremy here. Who do you have coming back from Edge? Who do you think is going to be the person? And that could be somebody who is still in the game, but what do you clearly you're excited about this topic.
Yeah, I hate it. No, I don't hate the topic. I just like, come on, like, what are we doing? Bringing somebody back on day, what is it, 37, 36? They did it.
36.
Who's the best? I would say Tyson is up there. I would say Natalie's up there. I would say Boston Rob is up there, and maybe Parvis. I'm naming everybody. Let's see. Well, they just got a big food reward from the family challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So maybe they're well fed than the Edge people, but the Edge people have more advantages because they have fire tokens potentially. I'm gonna go with Kim.
Kim. So you think Kim's gonna go out and then come back?
I think Kim, if I'm thinking about One World, Kim.
Yeah. Kim is fantastic in challenges, and I think someone who was just voted out has a better chance of coming back in.
Agreed. And then how do you think that would impact? So obviously we know on the first iteration of this, the person wins the game. But then again, that was the first time somebody had been voted out and won the game and all these crazy little Survivor twists. How do you think that this impact? Do you think she goes out right at 6? She comes back in at 6, goes right out. Do you think she goes out at 5? Do you think they let her get to the final 3 knowing she's not going to be able to get enough votes to win? I mean, how do you think that would go?
Yeah, if I was a player in the game, that's what I would be asking myself. Would winners really vote for somebody who was voted out already? But I think I would side with the majority, and the majority would say to vote her out right away.
Yeah, that's what I would say too. I don't think that anybody, maybe 1 or 2 people vote. I mean, I keep going back to the thing. If Natalie gets back in, of course, Amber's going to vote for Natalie. Of course, Danny's going to vote for Natalie. Like, why would they not vote for Natalie? They don't know anybody else well. But, you know, the further on you go, eventually one of these other winners is going to get, there's 17 people that are going to, or 16 people that are going to be on the jury. Even if the first boot of this season is able to pull 5 jury votes, another player is going to be able to pull 12. Like, that's just going to, or it'll be like a 6-6-5 or a 7-5-4. So like, there's going to be enough of a majority for a player who is in the game that offsets possibly an early boot like Chris coming back into the game to get the votes. Unless
it's you're against Nick and Michelle, who, if they didn't do anything.
But then at the end of the day, if it's Nick and Michelle versus Natalie, let's say, how do you sit there and vote for the first boot of the season over 2 people, no matter how much, even if they didn't do anything, who didn't get voted out of the game in an all-winner season?
I would like to say that I wouldn't vote for Natalie if I was, living with her on Edge, but I don't know if Edge does something to you where you bond, like again, like a opposite of Ponderosa.
To me, the pregame and how the players have been pretty vocal about their distaste for Edge of Extinction, I think they would not vote for her.
Oh, that's a very good point.
I think they would make a stand. Not the way that Sandra did, because apparently Sandra went out like absolutely trashing Edge of Extinction, and obviously they're not going to put that out. But I think, like, to me, and they obviously flew out right after watching it, but I don't know how they all say that they hate Edge of Extinction and then vote for an Edge of Extinction winner. I don't know.
I hope that's true.
I hope so too. I really do. But Parvati Michelle just gave them all peanut butter, and they seem really happy.
And the worst, what the worst part about Edge of Extinction is? The longer you're there, it actually starts to become more
like
impressive. And like I'm using quotes here, but like if Natalie comes back in and gets the final three, everybody's gonna be like, well, she was voted out first. She had to stay on Edge the whole time, and then she got back in. And while that sounds like an impressive story, like all of a sudden that becomes the impressive storyline, but I'm sitting here going, no, it isn't. That sucks. Why? Like she got voted out first. That's the only thing I heard you say. That's it.
All she did was make sure she didn't die on the Edge, and she's not going to die because you can't die. They're not going to let you die. So what did you do on the Edge? You just sat on an island and starved. You're not actually doing anything mentally for the most part, other than fire tokens. But yes.
Excuse me. She picked up 20 logs.
Oh, come on. Put that in the real game. Put that challenge in the real game.
That would be a really
that'd be something. Yeah.
Because I talked about this with somebody with Cesarino. It's just like if you do that during the day, then people are like, well, wait a minute, you're tiring yourself out before our team challenge, our tribe challenge. You're being selfish and getting fire tokens for yourself. You are not building the shelter with us. You're going to do a challenge. So it's like all these dynamics where you're like, yeah, which one do you pick? Do we all do it together and tire ourselves out? You don't know.
I was thinking about turning it into an immunity challenge.
No, I would say like a mini challenge for fire tokens.
Wow.
And any Edge challenge that they have, turn it into a mini challenge.
Those like little random challenges they had in Samoa, kind of like where like Jeff wasn't even there, and like it would just
love those.
Like, bowl real quick or something.
Oh,
like
yeah,
that was a reward.
They did that in One World too.
Yeah, they did do that in One World too. Like even though that was a reward challenge, it's still something else. I love this, and like I think that this is like something I hope the producers take seriously because, the biggest fear for every Survivor fan is that Survivor ends. That's always the biggest fear. And while coronavirus is happening now, I don't think it's going to end Survivor because the ratings are high and it's a cheap thing for CBS to make when they're going to be struggling right now. Like I worked at Warner Brothers in their TV department. They needed people in the office every day to be able to get shows really going the right way that they need to be going. And so like, for scripted TV is going to be very, very difficult right off the bat. It's expensive. A lot of these places are taking huge, huge hits, and so something like Survivor though is cheap, easy to produce. So I think that like there's going to be a season 41, there's going to be a season 42, there's going to be a season 43. How much time is in between? I don't know, but you got the best minds who've been there since season 1. Like I hope they're thinking about these kinds of things that we're also thinking about, because to me, there'd be nothing better than a season where you cannot find an idol, but everything goes through fire tokens and how you want to go with these fire tokens and purchase things and whether you purchase comfort or to get a better standing in the tribe or to save yourself, or like you said, you're doing this little mini challenge to get fire tokens, which is selfish, but then you get maybe 3 fire tokens and they don't know you got 3. They might only think you got 1. And you say, guys, I only got 1 fire token. I'll buy us a tarp. And then you still have 2 fire tokens. Like I think these are fascinating ideas.
Yeah. Like the log challenge. Like if somebody finishes first, they get the most fire tokens, but nobody knows it. Whoever finishes last gets 1 fire token, whatever. Yeah.
Someone take this YouTube link and just tweet it at Jeff. Or actually, a lot of people should do it because there's some good ideas in here.
He'll come yelling at us. He'd be like, no, none of that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You
No. He took somebody's idea. Lynn, I know her from some of the Survivor parties. They took the lower third idea from her. to put like the advantages in the lower third.
I love that.
So he's
Love
receptive.
that.
I shouldn't say that.
And I will say too, when you're a producer of a big TV show, you have to be stubborn in your ways because you want to think that the way it's working is working the best. But then also, I mean, it's the same thing. Like you write a script, and you like anytime somebody questions anything, you're like, no, you're an idiot. And then you sleep on it. You wake up the next morning, you're like, maybe that was a good point. Maybe you should do that. And like, you're always going to be defensive first. But I think that,
They have time.
Jeff is definitely open to ideas. That's why Survivor is no longer 16 people sitting on an island starving and sitting in their birthday suits doing nothing. Like that's why now there's idols all over the place and everything like that. He also said there'd never be an all-winner season, and we're in the process of watching an all-winner season. So a lot of ideas here. But hey, if you said you were talking about Sesternino, Alexa and I don't really have any pull. We know Sesternino at least has spoken to Jeff.
He's got pull.
There you go. Well, he sees him on the red carpet or whatever it was at the season 40 premiere. Yeah. But yeah, well, hey, Wiggler got the end edge of Extinction trending, right? Am I wrong on that?
Yeah, we need to come up with a cute hashtag. That's how we get this.
Yeah. Wait, what are we talking about? Silent auction or fire tokens or mini challenges?
We have a lot to push.
I know. We have
or season 42 Legends by Phil.
Yeah.
I think honestly, like Survivor facelift might need to be like our caption because we talked about so many things and none of them have a very good ring to it right now because fire tokens are we don't want to change fire tokens necessarily. We just want to use differently.
And it's just a jumping off point. We're just brainstorming. Like let them take it and make it better.
That's it.
Yeah.
And I know they could. But you know what?
Wait a minute. Yeah. What about Will?
Will right now.
I met Will. I was so happy. I was so happy for him. That's so cool.
Will's living the dream, and it's all gone straight to his head, as you can imagine. But he's living the dream.
This might be too personal, but does he still work on the show? I don't know. You don't have to answer. Okay.
In like a capacity, yes.
Okay. Now you guys applied, right? You guys apply for the show?
Apply all the time.
All
Nick.
the time.
Oh my gosh. So wait, how many years have you guys been applying for?
God, I was
or how many seasons, whatever. When did you first? What season?
I would say probably 8 years ago was the first time I applied.
So that
and I did take some cycles where I wasn't applying because when I was in college, you go through those fits of like that'd be cool, but also like me and Alexa went to Miami. I wasn't really dying to leave Miami to go play Survivor. I'm not gonna lie. So,
so that was like around Caramoan then, or Philippines?
Yeah. So what was it, 8 years ago? Yeah, it was around like the One World era. I definitely applied after Colton quit.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever Colton did, I definitely applied then.
I can do that.
I did an open call when I was a sophomore.
We went to college. Where did we go, Phil? Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania?
You and me went to Wilkes-Barre for like a call, but then I did one in Atlantic City where Jervis was there, and it was right before Jervis came back, so around that Philippines time.
Okay, that's awesome.
Open calls is something.
We were actually in casting during, I think like Max was there and whoever else was there. I think it was the Caramoan casting. And we were watching One World, and it was the episode where Colton was being a little much. And everybody was just like, oh no, what are you doing, dude? Wait, what about you, Alexa? How long?
Yeah, I went to the open casting call, and Phil, when was that? 2013?
I had just graduated from college. I think it was 2015.
So like 2014. Yeah. And then, I've done again, like your college kids are just like, so many times I was like, oh, I don't know how many thousands of millions of applications to get. So for a while I was submitting videos, but they weren't good. Like I kind of knew nothing would come of them. And only really recently was I like, okay, I'm actually going to kick my butt into gear, like take all this advice from all these people who we interview and try to make something good.
Nice. You guys got a breakthrough. There's time. Like they'll be casting again, right? Or whoever. They might be casting right now, depending on.
That little clip is still on.
Yeah, it went away and then it came back. And you know what killed me, Nick?
Yeah.
And I tell him all the time. I text him pretty much every morning to tell him he screwed me. Tommy Sheehan, he screwed me. I got no shot now. The last thing they want is another Tommy Sheehan to win. I tell them that all the time. So
wait, the last thing that they want is another Tommy?
Yeah. I mean, the community's sitting here calling him boring and all of that, and they're gonna look at me and they're gonna say, "You're just Tommy with better hair."
Because you have red hair or red beard, and no, come on, just because you look like him, no.
I got bigger arms and nicer hair, and that's why they would end up.
He's more muscular than Tommy.
Do you not have a different personality than Tommy? You do.
Yeah, but it's also like I'm from New Jersey. He's from Long Island. We have like
You
a lot
love the accent. Tom's got a wicked accent.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and he's a teacher. Can't you play up like your more devious side, not in an annoying way, but like in a.
Phil is not a fourth.
I don't have an annoying side, Nick. I don't know what you're talking about. That doesn't exist in me. That doesn't exist. I've been in the same house for the last 30 days, and trust me, I haven't been annoying once. I've been
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Just rolled out of my face.
Well, that's the thing though, you can come across like some audition videos are like, all right, and like same, mine was terrible. Mine were terrible in the beginning, so you just got to keep working at it.
Yeah. No, I mean, we try. That's all you can do, right? Is just keep trying. And maybe now they'll be like, you know what? That Phil guy, he had such great ideas for the show. He needs to play. And we need to put his ideas out there so he can screw them up and lose.
You have an advantage, knowing.
How good would it be if one of the three of us either gets on or gets back on and one of our advantages on there and we go home because of it? Would love that. Think of the storyline.
I wouldn't love that at all. No.
I'd love to watch it.
But, we'll see.
But that was
All right.
awesome. I mean, we said to you beforehand that these normally get shorter as we go on in the season because there's less and less people, and we just talked for 2 hours because
it was a good time. That's why
it feels good.
We got time.
It's a wonderful experience, And
it's like, oh my gosh, people.
Yeah. So, but yeah, do you have anything else you want to add, Nick, or you think we covered pretty much everything? And
no, that is it. I think we covered everything. I want to make sure. Yeah. Oh, the reunion. I'm interested how that'll go.
I'm very interested. I'm
really awkward, and I'm so pumped.
And I'm sure you're kind of bummed a little bit. I mean, it's a bummer, especially being me, like huge Survivor fan my entire life, finally able to kind of go to some of these, post parties and everything like that. Season 40, it's going to be this epic thing. And like Ethan and Amber and Boston Rob and Danny and Yule. And now it's like, it's not happening. It's a bummer. It's sad. It sucks. I mean, I obviously understand it, but it's a shame.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I was just trying to think in my head right there. If they're gonna have like a party for them after this is all over, like a reunion, like at the season 41, like jump off, or the season 41 finale. I don't know.
I think like a
season by then
off would be a good thing because it would be like a 20th anniversary. We didn't get to do this. Like also,
we did it sort of, right?
A return thing too, and I think that. Like, positivity on people's lives to be like all the winners get back together and in LA, preferably in a bar near where I live so I can get there by Uber for less than $20 and it'd be a great time.
Not selfish at all. No,
not at all. I think it's everybody else, not me.
I have been on enough Zoom calls in the past month where I'm just hoping that all of the kids are like dancing in the background or like totally interrupt someone in the middle of an interview because that's going to happen. So
it would be good Zoom TV for sure. Well, and I was just going to say they do shorten the reunions now, even the in-person ones. So maybe they'll just keep it short and sweet, 15 minutes, 20 minutes.
And kind of do a reunion in the fall or something with all of this free airtime that they will have because it's airing in January.
Right. And do a fan vote. Let's do a fan vote.
I agree. I totally agree. Do something like that. But yeah, I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But it's going to be weird to see like especially on this season where like it is like such a celebration of Survivor to see it be done over like a Zoom call and in these crazy circumstances you could have never seen coming. So, hey, I mean, hopefully it is for the best. And then hopefully in the future, like they're just able to figure out a way to get it right, like for something fun for
get us back on track, everybody.
Agreed. Absolutely agree. But, Alexa, why don't you take us home?
So if you want to keep us and Survivor back on track, tweet at Jeff Probst, at Survivor CBS, hashtag Survivor Facelift, hashtag mini challenge, all these other, mostly the silent auction. I think that one is probably the most realistic. Maybe not Survivor Facelift because maybe they'll think we don't like them. However, follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Subscribe to us on YouTube. Give us 5 stars on iTunes. Some people have left some pretty mean comments on iTunes. And Phil is a shining beacon of positivity now, so please reward him for that so that he keeps being positive.
Are those recent iTunes anger?
No, but for some reason they're always the top ones, and they're like really old.
It's because it's Rob's paying off iTunes. That's why he's paying off.
It's all just mixed bank accounts.
I'm not going on any other podcast anymore.
Nick, I'm not just saying this because I haven't talked to a human who isn't my parent, brother, or my pet in a month, but this was legitimately one of the best conversations I've ever had about Survivor. I can't believe we flew through 2 hours. I could keep chatting about this all night. So thank you so much. I think our fans had a really good time, and we would love to have you back on again.
Same. I appreciate you guys having me on and asking me to come on. Seriously, I've been watching since the Phil and Will days.
Wow.
And so I'm glad that you've taken over, Alexa, because you're so much better than Will.
Agreed.
Since you paid me that compliment, I got to pay it back. But no, but seriously though, thank you guys. This has been a blast, and I'm happy to do it. And I would love to come back.
Absolutely.
All right.
All right,
Everyone
man.
stay safe, stay inside, wash your hands, and we'll see y'all on Wednesday.